Hey y'all, welcome back to Andy's Little Homestead. We're here working on the off-grid chicken house. We're gonna put the roof on. Well, maybe not the entire roof, but at least the insulation and purlins. I've got a system that I'm gonna be putting in place. It's called a cold roof. I'm kind of making it up as I go along. And we're trying to use crap that we already got. So I got some foam board over there. Got a pile of lumber right behind me. I got the world's cutest helper over there. And she fully understands the system that we're putting in place. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the first 2x4 across there, and basically going have 2 inches of foam and then the sleepers on top of that. Across the bottom, we're gonna put down 2 layers, purlins on top of that. So there'll be a gap between the metal and the proper airflow.
Sure.
It'll make more sense when it's up there. So we're just gonna get to work, and then I guess I can explain it from there. The whole reason that we're installing this particular system is because we got a beautiful ceiling inside, and I love the exposed rafters. We want to keep that aesthetic, but we still need to be able to insulate. So we're doing it this way, and it might work. I forgot to hit the button, but there's our bottom 2x4. All right, so up here, I'm basically marking where the final ridge is gonna be because I'm gonna have a fascia on the other side meeting it. So I got it nailed off in place down there, and then I had my beautiful wife line up dead center line of the house. I'm gonna move my speed square here to the 812 mark, strike my line, and then the other side should meet that just fine. Hey, if you want, I'm gonna need the foam board next, if you wanna go grab it.
Why is it all the way over there?
Because that's where it landed.
Can we like move the whole stack over here?
Yeah, if I grab the tractor.
Which tractor?
The one with the forks on it.
So not my green tractor?
Oh, is that what we're calling it now?
Until you fix my
I knew we were going here. I knew.
Look, fix my tractor! And I won't call this one mine.
Yeah, you fix my tractor, I won't have to call the other one my tractor. So now that my wife has her foam board 15 feet closer than it previously was, we can get
15 feet.
16. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna lay down 2 layers. We're gonna lay down sleepers on top of it. The sleepers are just 2x4s that are laid flat, and all they do is create the gap between the foam and the purlins. It's really awkward talking to the camera while you're just staring at me like that. So foam, 2x4s, purlins. Let's go.
It seems like it went in too easy. Or is it just that easy for you?
Well, I was going through the foam for 2 inches of it, but also...
Yeah, okay.
All right, so now we got a couple up. You can see basically what's happening. We laid down our foam board against this bottom 2x4, and we're running these sleepers up, and we drove the spikes in. Now these bad boys are 6 inches long, so they'll go through the 2x4, through 2 inches of foam, through the decking, and 1 inch into the rafter. She ain't going nowhere. And I had my wife look down the line from underneath because I don't want those spikes to miss the rafter, which I might have on one, but that's okay. The rest of them will go in straight. Unfortunately, the foam board is not in the greatest condition, so we might end up having to buy some, which I really hate doing. But we'll keep on rolling with this. All right. So we got all of our sleepers up in place. We're gonna throw a couple more spikes in the top of them once we get there, but we'll build our purlins up to them so we got a nice, safe place to walk. We ran the foam board vertically, and it actually had tongues and grooves that lock together. So we've got a continuous R10 plane of foam all the way across here. Now, R10 is definitely not sufficient for this area, but what we're losing in R value, we're making up for in the fact that there's no gaps. I mean, think about it. In normal rafters or trusses, you're gonna end up either 16 or 24 inches, and then you're gonna have a spot where there's wood. That wood provides no insulation. If 2 inches of foam can keep ice in a cooler for days and days in the summertime, then 2 inches of foam on a roof is probably gonna be good enough. On top of that, this provides a secondary drainage plane so that if anything does get through the metal, it'll just run right down and out. And if it gets through the foam, it'll land on the underlayment and it'll just run right down and out. That's not based on anything that's written by an engineer anywhere. I'm just thinking like a raindrop, so it should work. And we're on to day 2, even though we only worked a few hours yesterday. My wife tricked me into going to Taco Bell, and then I ate too much, and I got sleepy, and then we stopped working. And now I'm back here working by myself. I feel like she planned this. So now we're gonna sling the purlins that the metal are gonna sit on. Working with rough cut straight off the mill is kind of a pain in that nothing's ever cut to length right away. But the flip side is all the lumber on this side of the roof would have cost about $300 if I bought it. Instead, it only cost me about $12 in diesel fuel, so that's worth the extra work. Cheap wood is better than no wood. All right, well, there's the first row of them. So basically what I did was I set this first one right on, just dead on the bottom edge. And then I took that block, where did I put it? Oh, I threw it down there. Cut that block to 17 inches. So there's a 17-inch gap between each of these all the way up. I picked 17 because that puts my top purlin just 2 inches shy of the true ridge, which gives me a good nailer for my ridge cap. That'll make sense when we start putting metal on. But basically these purlins are what the metal sits on and gets nailed to. Well, Andy, why didn't you just put the purlins down directly to the foam? I'm glad you asked that, random internet person, because a big part of the cold roof system is having an air gap underneath. Any heat that escapes the house goes through the foam and is inside that space needs to be able to exhaust. So much like a soffit and ridge vent combination on a standard house, I've got a clear shot from bottom to top for any of that heat to exit. If I had put the purlins directly on the foam, I would still have an air gap, but I wouldn't have a clear path for it to go out. Why is that important? Well, we got this little thing called ice damming. Ice damming is when heat from the house melts water on the roof and it runs down, and as soon as it gets over an area that's outside of that heated space, our soffit in this case, it refreezes. It builds up and it creates a pool basically right here at this exterior wall. The water backs up and gets into the house. This type of system, a cold roof system, is very good at preventing that kind of thing because A, we've got continuous coverage, and B, the bottom side of the metal is at least very close to the outside temperature. Less melt off, less ice damming, dry house, great success. And the last thing that I want to mention, because it kind of seems a little arbitrary, my spacing of my sleepers and my purlins. Each thing supports the thing above it, so if I spread my sleepers out to 4 feet, I'd have a lot of bounce in the purlin. If I spread my purlins out to, you know, a 2-foot gap between them, I don't have a lot of support on my metal. The metal that I'm using is old. It came off of a barn. This is not new metal. So my spacing is just what's enough to give it the support that it needs. Now, unfortunately, I didn't charge my camera battery last night, so we'll finish this up the quick way. And there we go. We got our purlins on all the way across the top. Last thing that we need to do is we need to run up there. We need to chop the ends off those, square them all up. And we got to drive our top spikes in that we couldn't reach from the ladder earlier. And there we go, y'all. We are officially halfway there. I'm happy with how this looks. I'm gonna end up doing the metal in a different video because there's a lot of little details that I want to include with, and I don't want it to be too long. A lot of people may wonder why I decided to go with this system. Why not go with something you know, standard, you know, boards on the ceiling, insulation and rafters, and then more decking or purlins, and then metal on top of that. The biggest reason is I'm kind of working with the best combination of free materials that I got. I got this foam board on trade, so I'm calling it free to me. And I really wanted to keep the look of the exposed rafters, so when I decked out the rafters, I was essentially also putting the ceiling in. Put the foam sleepers and purlins down, and well, that's the rest of my roof system. But I really like the cold roof. I think it's gonna be good for this area, and I think despite the relatively low R value, I think it's gonna help keep us nice and toasty inside. It ain't perfect, but in the words of a old guy I used to work for, you're not building the f***ing Taj Mahal. Friend Jerry spoke those words of wisdom some years before he passed away, and I believe I've taken it with me. But y'all, this is some real good progress. We'll get the other half done and go from there. As always, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope you learned something, I love you, and God bless. Gee, Andy, thank you for the way overly complicated roofing system video. We loved it. And we will continue to watch all of your videos that come up Monday nights. Thank you, good citizen of the internet. It's my pleasure.